Welcome back to the MotorFab YouTube channel. Thanks so much for everyone who's been supporting the channel and liking and subscribing and sending us messages and comments. Thank you. Really appreciate the feedback and how many people are getting on board with the channel. Absolutely love it. Today's episode, we're going into the shortening the housing, the process that I went through with the what we did with the borgwarner housing and shortening that down. Enjoy also putting in the mini spool and the bearings, all that sort of bizzo. Yeah, we've got a few things to just quickly get through. A lot of people have been messaging and asking about other things I've got in the shop here. So yeah, I've got all my cars in the shop. We obviously predominantly as a business manufacture our suspension components. We're very busy doing that. So I keep my toys in the shop here, and yeah, the focus at the moment is on the Monaro. Because we're committed to this crazy 90-day build, but yeah, after I finish them, I might keep the channel going and go through some other builds I've been working on. I'm going to go through the Torana here at the moment. That's my baby. I've been building that for quite some time, a year or two now, part-time here and there. So I'll go through that in a sec. That's my favourite car. I want to get it finished and race it, and really looking forward to that. Got my little rat rod over here in the background there, little 40 Chevy, sorry, bad camera work there, little 40 Chevy pickup truck. I got my VL Calais turbo up on the hoist there. I just picked up the engine for that just recently from RLC Engine Reconditioning. Big shout out to Doug Day for building a top little forged RB30 for me. It's got a C4 automatic behind it, and a pretty tidy little car. I got my ute. A lot of people have been asking about, it's on the ute in the wall, it's under the calator in the back there. A lot of people have been asking about that. I'll do a feature on that in an episode soon to come, when I've got a little bit more time on my hands, and go right over it, go through the engine combo and the gearbox and the driveline and suspension, yeah, the ECU and all that sort of stuff. And if this COVID crap ever goes away and I can get back to racing, I'll be able to yeah, show you through some of our racing, tuning, and what I do with the tune and suspension setup, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, enjoyed today's episode, and I'm just going to bang the camera around real quick and we'll go through this Torana very quickly. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. So here it is. A bit easier for you to see. You guys have been asking about my Torana rather than just spying on it in the background of our other videos for the Monaro. I drove the car in as a standard car. It was, yeah, standard running shitbox Torana, 1972 LJ coupe. Everyone thought I was mad cutting up a two-door. Yeah, wasn't the best condition car. I bought it really cheap a while ago and ended up selling the interior out of it for pretty much what I paid for the car. So it owed me nothing, and my dream car has always been a 3/4 tube chassis LJ Torana. So that's why I had no qualms in cutting the car up, because it's what I've always wanted, and I don't really care if people think I should have tried to restore it. It was only a poverty pack one. So yeah, I've cut it up and built it exactly how I want it, and it's my dream car, like I said. So yeah, we got a chromoly comp engineering housing in there. It's just got some dummy brackets on the forelink at the moment. I designed and built all the chassis. As I said, I drove it in as a stock car, and I'll drive it out of here as a race car. And I've done everything myself. No one will get to work on it. This is my little project, my little baby. This is all my design. Design this forelink system here. Can't show you too much there because that's a product to come out soon. So yeah, so I develop a lot of things. All of these builds that I do, I develop a lot of products for MotorFab, for the company along throughout the builds, which is what keeps me doing them. Otherwise I'd be tired and over it, but no, I enjoy it. So you can see there, it's got the front end. I've got a big block in it at the moment, big block. It's set up small block, and I haven't set up the front engine plate yet for the big block. I'm just in the process of doing that, but I'm setting it up for big block and small block. Just in the process now doing the steering. Pretty gnarly steering angles, but it's what it has to be when the big block's in it. So I want to be able to run a big block or small block in the car. I'm not 100% which combo that I'm going to run yet. We've got this big block over here, which we ran an EFI Nitrous setup. So I'm thinking about possibly changing. That's a pretty good engine. It's got some good stuff in it. Thinking about changing the combo a little bit, cam and compression wise and stuff, and running twin 94s or something on it maybe. But that might be down the track, so I may put my small block in it. Not too sure which turbo combo I'll put on it yet, but just to get the thing going a bit quicker, because I've already got everything there ready to go for it. Check this out. This was when I bought the car. If you've ever owned a LJ Torana, if the wiper motor dies in it, it is a mission to get the wiper motor out. And obviously whoever owned this car previously didn't want to go through the mission, so they just cut this out and replaced the wiper motor through the top. Had all the wreckers writing and stuff on it, so it's a bit of a mission getting the heater box out to get to the wiper motor. Yeah, some bodgy things happen over the years. So yeah, it's got the 17-inch front runners, which a lot of people like. Just about finished doing the funny car cage. Chassis is all built to 25, whatever it is, at the standard for it. So I will keep persisting until it should run into the 6s and the quarter mile this car. Haven't quite set up where I want to go on the 8th yet. Yeah, I just finished doing the chute mounts and that as well. So yeah, after I get this Monaro out of the way, we'll get back into it and finish off the chassis and finish off all the loose ends with the body. The body's not cut out properly yet and not mounted to the chassis properly yet, but I'll do all that. Fiberglass doors, fiberglass front nose cone, steel roof and quarters. So I built this car. There's not really a class here in Australia for it. It's a pretty popular class over in the States, but popular style of car anyway. So it's a notched factory firewall. It's a steel roof and quarter car. So yeah, figure out whatever class you think I want to fit in. Probably always be on a radial. It's got 315 radials in the back of it at the moment. I've set the car up, especially with the way that 4-link is. I can run it on a 315 or a 275. And yeah, so just trying to build it the way I like it. Stance is everything as far as I'm concerned. They got to look cool. And yeah, just LJ 2-doors, I just love them, absolutely love them. So much KTG Monaros, so why I'm building those two cars, because they're my favourites. Hope you've enjoyed a little walk around, and like I said, after the Monaro's finished, we'll get into some detail about this little Torana, and we'll keep going with the build. A tool tip here, if you're doing a bit of fabrication work on old cars, these cheap plasma cutters are fantastic, especially cutting old panels and stuff out. We're just using it here to cut the brackets off our Diff. So I'll just show you how easy it is. Just missed a little bit at the start there. That's that done. They're just quick and easy, and then just sand down the rest of it. So they're a pretty good thing, and they're not that dear. So the tail of destruction, there's all the brackets off. All the brackets off the Diff. It took about 5-10 minutes, a lot quicker than cutting them off with a grinder, obviously. The sanding part, sanding all these down, is time consuming. But yeah, the plasma speeds things up, so gets it pretty close. A bit of sanding to sand all that mess off. I thoroughly love the grinding part. Today we're out here grinding in the rain, but it's better than making a mess in the shop. And yeah, enjoy. It's boring. We just got to grind the rest of these brackets off after we plasma cut it, and it is what it is. There's no faster way. there we go, all done. The worst part is over. Grinding, sanding, cleaning up. There you go. Now let's get it in the factory and sorry, cars going past here. Let's get it in the factory and work out our measurements to cut this thing down. Righto, shortening time. A little bit of mathematics. The stock diff out of the Commodore that we took the borgwarner out of was 1567. The stock diff in our Monaro was 1537. And that allows you to run, say, a wheel with about 2 inch of lip. So if it was, say, a stock wheel of a 15 by 6, it would be a 4 inch backspace. So we had a look, we were looking at some 15 by 8 with a 3 and 3/7 inch backspace, which required 120 less overall. And therein lies the problem. With these Commodore diffs, the axle here, sorry, not filming very well. The axle there is 30.28 millimeters. And the axle behind the factory spline is 29.6, so it's narrower. So on the standard diff, you've got 22 mil engagement of axle. Now I can't stress this enough. This is not something we would do on a customer car. This is purely because it's a junkyard build. We're going cheap. We're going quick and easy. So to get the 8 inch with 3.75 backspace, we needed to shorten 120, so we need to come 60 off each axle, which puts our whole spline, I'm just trying to focus that a bit better, whole spline right in this thinner area. It won't grab, it'll roll the spline. So what we've done here, we've got around 18 mil, we had 22 standard, we've got around 18 mil left of standard spline. So we've cut the axle off the end here, and then we've cut the spline back onto the thinner section. Now that spline is thinner, but it's still going to be enough, because what we're also going to do, because we've got a spool, we're actually going to push the axle spline in further than what it went before. They just do this when they grab the axle in the machine. So you can see quite clearly on that one, you can see the original spline and then the new spline here. So that is going to let us shorten this diff 30 mil each side, 60 approximately, which is going to let us fit 7 by 15 with a 4 inch backspace, which will give us 3 inches of lip, which it's a little bit of extra mucking around. We could have just cut the axles down, cut the end off and slipped them in a bit further and achieved our stock width of 1537. But then we could only run a stock wheel and we couldn't get that extra inch or so of dish on the wheel. It's just aesthetics. I like the look. A little bit of dish on there. It just looks a bit tougher. So that's the problem with the borgwarner diff. It's probably why you don't see more of them in these cars, because to get a good width, you can't trim the axles back to get that width. You've actually got to go minimum to shorten it down and respline in the fatter part here. You can see the taper there. I'm trying to focus that a bit better. You can see the taper there. You've got to go minimum 95. Now the difference in the axles is actually 95. So if you were going to run like a 3 inch or 3 and 3/8 inch backspace wheel, you can run the short axle in the long side, and then you can take 190 or whatever mil it is off the long axle, and that gets you a very narrow diff. The problem with that is then you start to foul if you go over here to our stock diff, when you start to shorten in that far, the brake backing plates start to foul with the leaf spring. So that's a little bit of an issue, but you can make it work. We've done it several times before with that sort of offset, but realistically we would never mess with resplined axles, or part of a new spline, part of an old spline like this. This is just literally because we're doing this thing on the cheap. Normally we would put a 9 inch in with the right custom made axles and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, this is just a bit of fun and to show you what you can do on a cheap build. So far we're $200 for our diff, we're $50 for our spool, we're under $200 in new bearings, all the bearings, wheel bearings and everything. And we were $250 for the machine work on the axles. And hopefully that's going to get us at a nice width. It's going to look good, and we'll see how much power it can actually take. If you're building a street car with, say, 500 flywheel horsepower, this diff will work fine. It wouldn't be a problem at all. You'll probably work a little harder and try to track down a 4-pinion LSD. They're a little bit rarer. But yeah, a nice 4-pinion LSD with a couple of extra shims to tighten it up, and you got, say, 500 horsepower naturally aspirated car, this diff will be great. No problems at all, and really cheap if you're doing all the work yourself. If you're trying to get a diff shop to do it, it gets expensive because it is time consuming. So also we've got to put our leaf spring brackets on, which is here. We sell these on our website. Just chasing some. They're not very expensive. Don't cut your old brackets off and try to weld them back on your new diff. It's just messy, especially if you've got the factory HKTG saddle. They're a pig of a thing to work with. Don't use them. Buy a cheap set of saddles that work great. So obviously they go on the diff or pick up the leaf spring, and the U-bolts go to the top to hold it all in. Now normally when we shorten a diff, we cut the housing tube, or if we're working with a sheet metal diff like this one over here, they come blank, so we put a billet housing end on it and nicely splice it all together to make it nice and strong. These factory ends here are pushed in, pressed, and they've got a little funny sort of arrangement on the end, like a sort of funny factory, some sort of machine weld. That's just a normal weld, it's just obviously done in a machine. They're thin, they're not that great. If we were doing it properly, we would cut that back and we'll put a nice billet housing end on it, but we're putting the same brakes and everything back. Part of the beauty of using these diffs is they come with good disc brakes, and they come with built-in handbrake, so it's just easy for hot rodding application to upgrade your brakes and a bit stronger diff. But if normally, like I say, we'll cut that down, put a new nice billet end on it. But what we're going to do here, this sounds absolutely ludicrous, but I have done it before, and I've seen plenty of other shops doing it too. We're actually just going to cut the tube, straight through the tube, cut our piece out that we're going to shorten it, and butt it back together, V it out, just put a nice weld around it. And for extra strength, what we're going to do is we're going to measure out and make that join right in the middle of the saddle. So then you've got the welds around the saddle bracing that new joint. So I guarantee it won't break. That weld won't come adrift. So it sounds a bit crazy, butting the tube back together, but it's not really any different to a weld that normally lives on the ends. But plus you've got the saddle bracing it to hold it together. So a bit crazy, a bit different. Some people are probably going to criticise me saying it's a bit shonky, but it's yeah, from an engineering point of view, it's strong and it'll do the trick, and it's quick and easy. So for our cut, I know that I've just measured the car factory pin to pins. Well, I know the measurement because we use it all the time. Is about 1038. This one's 1440. That's 1038. Is 402, I think. So we'll take 201 back this way, and that should be right on our pin. So just a little tip before we cut our diff. Obviously your brake orientation. So we want to try to keep that the same. So just put that, just a piece of angle, put that on there. And we're going to run a nice line through there. So then when we cut that, I've just written that's our 201 in. Yeah, we worked it out. We'll put that in the saw and confirm that. We'll just check that 201 is right. I like to write a lot on the housings, that way stuff up your measurements and stuff like that. So we'll just put our orientation line on this side. It's rocking around like crazy. So we've got our housing in the saw. We squared up the saw, make sure it's nice and square. Now, there's always a couple of ways you can do things. sometimes you put a little bit more thought into things that's going to really help you out down the track. So normally most people would think put that in there and cut off our mark what you want, and then you want to take 30 mil off this piece. Now if we do that, if we cut that cut first, our 201 in, which gives us our 1038 pin to pin separation, this piece then, because of this flange, won't hold in the saw because it'll ride up there, so you won't be able to get a square cut in the saw. So then you'd have to cut it back with the grinder and gin around trying to get the thing square again. So by pushing the diff back through, cutting this cut first, our 30 off, and then moving back 30 mil to then cut our 201, we get 2 dead even cuts in the saw. We can set the orientation up and keep it the same. So even if the cut is slightly skewed, it's going back in the exact same place. So the 2 cuts are parallel. That way, this line will end up dead straight there, and this flange will be exactly at 90 degrees to our face. Getting it square is obviously, we've got a jig that we're going to put it in to weld it back together. It has a big bar through here and some machine pieces in the center section there. But getting the cuts right from the start is going to save you a lot of messing around. So that we get all our cuts parallel, so they'll line up, because they're saying we're going to level it up with this little box. These little level boxes are really handy, definitely a handy tool to have around your workshop. So we'll dial that in there at 0, we'll lock it off, and then we know all of our cuts will all be parallel with each other. So here we are, we're locked in. 171, which is our 201 less 30 for our cut, with 0 on the level box. So we'll put all of our four cuts at 0, and we should have a nice easy job to put it all back together. So we've got our diff in the diff jig. You can see the heat there, I've just welded it up. So the jig is a piece of, I think it's 40 mil bright bar, and it's 2 bushers that go inside the center there. We've got all different ones, different bearings and stuff. Most of them are for 9-inch, I don't do too many borgwarners. So yeah, so it goes right through. It's got these, I call them pucks on the end. So they push into the bearing acceptor there, and then you got these threads that are in the bright bar. Push these sleeves down, hold it all straight, and this is our product. We're putting our cut back and welding it up. I've gone for a hot, strong weld rather than a pretty weld, because I want it to be strong, obviously. And then there's actually a bit of porosity in there. I think the plasma cutter, I left a bit of shitty slag or molten slag there. And then these will weld on to pick up the leaf spring. So you've got a fair purchase of weld around both sides of that, which will brace the join, make it quite strong. So I'm here setting the perches up. We'll do that while it's in the jig still. Lots of people always ask me about this, pinion angle and stuff like that. We'll go with the center first. To work out these, obviously you got the pumpkin in the middle, it's hard to ascertain center. When we do a 9-inch, we've got this thing, people call them a dog bone, that actually sits on the the front of the diff, and it gives you the center of pinion, so it makes your measuring really easy. I actually don't know why it's got 4032 on there, but that's actually my race number for IHRA. So pretty cool, but anyway. Yeah, so on these you can't work out the center because we don't have a dog bone for it, and it's a little bit, you don't have a face edge like the 9-inch anyway. So we do a lot of stuff overall. So this housing I've just measured across there is 1377 across. We know that our center of pin to center of pin we measured before is 1038. So 1038 less, 1377 less 1038 is 339. And then divide that by 2, which is 169.5. And then these are 2.5 inch, so they're 63.6. And we know that half of 2.5 inch is 31.8. So we minus our 31.8 off that 169.5 gives you 137. I'm 37.7, I think, from here to here. And then obviously then that'll give us our 1038 center to center. Now as for our pinion angle, I've done a lot of this in this model car, so I've got a measurement that I know works. So you've got the camber of the spring, and you've got where the perch and the diff sits on that camber, on here. This is obviously upside down, and that affects the pinion angle. So I know with these cars, the measurement I like is 4.5 degrees here laid back. So when we set that on there, obviously we're in a 90 plane, so 90 would be 0. So it must have bumped a little bit. It was, oh, there you go. So 85.6, so 85.5 is what we're looking at. That's quite within our tolerance. So that's 4.5 degrees laid back. Pay attention, some people, I get asked this a lot, almost daily. People installing their suspension kits and that, trying to work out their pinion when they're building their diff. And there you go, so well, that is set 4.5 degrees laid back. Obviously this is upside down as what it would be in the car. Then I'll set that at 0. So by that being 0, that gives me 4.5 degrees laid back in the car, but where it sits on the spring camber, if you look up at the car there, it sits towards the front of the spring, and where the perch lays on our spring that we're using, which is not that spring, that'll give us the pinion angle that we want in the car, which when we put it in the car, I'll show you that and the importance of that. So there you go, that's our first perch tacked on. We'll set the other one up the same, weld them on, and then this thing's ready to put everything back together and be a complete diff again and go in the car. Then set our suspension kit in the car and put the diff in. So I've just finished welding the perches on. You can see there. So they're all welded up nice. Sorry about the noise in the background. That's young Gillo works here. He's over there making up a tank. Go have a look what he's doing over there. Young Gibbo's down here today making a tank for himself, or for another car, I think, for a blown setup.
Blown Fairlane.
Point at the screen, I'll put your Insta tag on, mate. Your Insta handle. Run
it. ASE6.
No, you don't have to tell us, mate. I'll put it in the link later. You just point and I'll put it where you point.
Link in the bio.
Just like that, mate.
Just like that.
Yeah, there. That's where we'll put the link
there.
at. Beauty, right. So yeah, he's getting better on the TIG.